Hey, it's Mr. Shrum, and I'm back again with one of these tutorial walkthroughs. Today, we're going to look at the respiratory and circulatory systems in the body. So we're going to develop a model to show how the circulatory and respiratory systems work together to provide oxygen, to the body. So let's get into the warm-up question. What changes occur to your breathing and heart rate during exercise? Why do you think these changes occur? Well, the heart beats faster and your breathing gets heavier during exercise. These changes occur because the body needs more oxygen to exercise, and the heart needs to pump this oxygen to the body parts that need it. Next warm-up question. Well, let's see. Hemophilia is a condition in which blood does not clot properly. What is the main effect of this condition? Well, that would lead to a decreased ability to heal blood vessel wounds. Blood clots stop the blood from flowing in a damaged blood vessel. The vessels then undergo repair and the wound heals. In hemophilia, the body loses the ability to form clots, which decreases the body's ability to heal wounds altogether. And we're going to learn more about that in the upcoming slides. But first of all, the respiratory system. Have you ever noticed the number of sayings related to breathing? When we see something incredible, we say that it takes our breath away. When we hope for something that's not likely to happen, the response is often, don't hold your breath. These sayings are used because breathing is a vital part of being alive. Everyone knows what breathing is. The respiratory system takes in the oxygen that the body needs to survive. And we're going to look at the process of respiration in detail. Respiration occurs in the respiratory system, and this is a group of organs that help take in oxygen and expel carbon dioxide. Breathing and respiration are different. Breathing or ventilation is the physical process of taking in and expelling air from the atmosphere. Respiration is the release of energy from the breakdown of glucose in living cells. And there are two types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic respiration, this occurs when organisms use oxygen to produce usable energy. In contrast, anaerobic respiration does not require oxygen, hence the an prefix. So for example, during rigorous exercise, muscles produce energy via anaerobic respiration. Some simple single-celled organisms are obligate anaerobes. This means that they can't survive in oxygenated environments. All of their respiration is anaerobic. Let's explore how oxygen reaches the cells by way of the respiratory system. Okay. The movement of air. The respiratory system includes the nose, the pharynx, the epiglottis, the larynx, the trachea, lungs, and your diaphragm. When you inhale, air from the atmosphere enters your nose. The nasal passage and other respiratory areas are lined with hairs and hair-like structures called cilia. Hair and cilia filter the air for foreign particles. These foreign particles are swept by cilia, so they don't enter your lungs. Beneath the cilia is a blanket of mucous membrane. These mucous membranes warm and moisten the air and filter it. The filtered air then passes into the pharynx or your upper throat. As you can see here. The larynx is an organ in front of the pharynx. A flap of tissue called the epiglottis covers the opening of the larynx. The tissue prevents food particles from entering the larynx and allows air to pass between the larynx and the trachea. The trachea or windpipe branches into two tubes called bronchi, and a singular way to say that is bronchus. And these attach to the lungs. And you can see the primary bronchus here. The bronchi divide into smaller tubes called bronchioles, which branch further and end up in small sac-like structures called alveoli. Thus, air from the atmosphere reaches the lungs through a series of organs through the respiratory system. Pulmonary means in relation to lungs. The pulmonary arteries and veins are blood vessels that transport molecules in and out of the lungs. The lungs are the largest organs in the respiratory system. The exchange of gases takes place in the lungs. The diaphragm is a muscular sheet that separates the chest and the stomach region. It plays an important role in inhalation and exhalation. When you inhale, your diaphragm contracts. This increases the volume of the chest cavity and moves air into the lungs. When you exhale, the diaphragm relaxes, reducing the size of the chest cavity and allowing air to flow out. Give it a few tries yourself. The brain has a respiratory control center that regulates breathing. The carotid artery, which is the major blood vessel in the neck, and the aorta contains biological sensors that detect changes in carbon dioxide and oxygen levels. These little sensors regulate an individual's breathing rate. The center sends signals that contract and relax the muscles involved in breathing, making it an involuntary action. You may be able to hold your breath for a few minutes or breathe at a faster rate at will. However, most of the time, breathing is involuntary. You don't even think about it. The rate of breathing also depends on how active you are and the amount of air around you. For example, when you run, your body needs more energy. Skeletal muscle movements require more energy and therefore more oxygen. The rate of breathing in such cases rises automatically to increase the amount of oxygen that reaches the lungs. On the other hand, if the air contains irritants or toxins, the body will regulate the amount of air breathed in. So we have a check your understanding question. Asthma is a condition in which a person's airway becomes inflamed and produces extra mucus. One of the symptoms of an asthma attack is hyperventilation or rapid breathing. Review the image and explain why asthma would cause this symptom. So here we have a normal bronchiole and an asthmatic bronchiole. And if we look at the sample answer, the asthmatic bronchiole is much narrower, as you can see here, than the normal bronchiole, and it's filled with excessive mucus. If enough air does not get to the lungs for gas exchange, the person will need to breathe heavily to compensate. Almost all living things need oxygen to survive. However, oxygen is not the only gas present in the atmosphere. Nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, argon, and small amounts of other gases exist in different proportions in the atmosphere. In fact, nitrogen makes up 78% of the air we breathe. Oxygen makes up 21% of the air we breathe. When we breathe, we take in all of the gases. So how is only oxygen transferred to the cells and not the other gases? During the transfer of gases into the alveoli, the process of diffusion takes in oxygen. The rest of the gases are expelled through exhalation. When we exhale, we expel carbon dioxide and a lot of oxygen. The oxygen we exhale can help other people at times. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation, otherwise known as CPR, is a technique used when someone's heart or breathing stops. A person trained in CPR breathes into the person's mouth. The air exhaled, which contains large amounts of oxygen, can revive the person and save a life. And for some jobs, you need to be CPR certified. Some of you may actually already be certified. Gas exchange and transport. We've seen how oxygen from the air transfers to the alveoli in the lungs. When oxygen reaches the alveoli and we inhale, they inflate. They then deflate when we exhale. In the alveoli, the air diffuses out into the red blood cells, RBCs, present in the network of capillaries lining the lungs. These capillaries are thin blood vessels between the arteries and veins. Oxygen is transported into the cells for use. Capillaries collect the waste carbon dioxide from the entire body and return it to the lungs. The carbon dioxide is then transported out of the lungs through external respiration. The RBCs have a special protein called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin enables the transfer of oxygen to the cells. The oxygen diffused from the lungs into these RBCs then gets pumped back into the heart for delivery to other parts of the body. Blood that contains oxygen is called oxygenated blood. Blood that contains carbon dioxide is called deoxygenated blood. So if it has oxygen, you call it oxygenated. If there's no oxygen, deoxygenated. Let's take a look at a model that explains the gaseous exchange in the lungs. See, here we have a modeling gas exchange. A student drew this model to show the gas exchange in the human body. What are the strengths of this model the student created? One strength of the model is that it clearly shows which gases are taken in and which gases are released for exhalation. That is true. But what are the weaknesses or inaccuracies in this model? It doesn't clearly show that the gas exchange happens in the alveoli through the capillaries. It can easily be misinterpreted. The model doesn't show where this gas exchange is actually taking place. It looks like the blood picks up oxygen, delivers it to the body, and then comes back and expels the carbon dioxide it collects. So clarifying this would be less confusing. In part C, it says, improve the student's model of gas exchange by drawing the missing components. And here's the answer for that. A capillary is added to the model to show where the gas exchange is taking place. So this is all taking place in a capillary. Cool. What strengths and weaknesses do you see in your improved model? Well, now this new model correctly shows the process of oxygen and carbon dioxide exchange that takes place in the capillaries. However, it doesn't show that this oxygenated blood travels back to the heart for distribution to the body. It also does not show the structure of the alveoli. So even though it's better, it's not perfect. And that's it for the respiratory system. I will come back later and we'll go through the circulatory system later. But until then, have a good one, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.